Hello, good afternoon. It is Friday the 26th of January. We're a bit later than usual. We've been recording other stuff as well today.
For these people.
We couldn't, well, yeah, for everybody, yeah. We couldn't come on at the normal time because we needed the boat to get through the tears of...
in this building, yeah?
There's a bit of mourning.
Yeah, there's been a bereavement
this morning that
clearly,
they are very, very, very upset in the studio. To be fair, listen.
Not this studio.
No. Hey.
Next door.
All of it. They're obviously very, very upset because it is coming, the end of an era is coming, isn't it? One of Liverpool's greatest ever managers. I think that the record book showed that. Is leaving.
Second best one.
Is that what it is, yeah?
I think he's the second best manager.
Shankly, Paisley.
Paisley's the best, wasn't he?
Shankly was good, though.
Yeah.
What about Kenny Dalglish? Won the double.
Maybe fourth, then?
Yeah. I said he was the fourth when...
We didn't even plan that.
No.
But it's a natural
just thinking
flow,
off your head, isn't it?
I think Paisley's number one, right?
But there you go, isn't it? That's...
He's best manager on Merseyside since Howard.
Yeah. So there you go.
That's applauded. That is because
that is a big plaudit. Yeah. But listen, I understand. I remember Howard Kendall leaving just come from nowhere, didn't it? In '87, and that was like a kick in the bollock.
It was a shock.
Ped said something before. He was absolutely right. It's a bit like when Kenny Dalglish left Liverpool, which obviously Everton beat them in the FA Cup, didn't he? And the next day he resigned from nowhere, and well, it felt like nowhere. Yeah. It transpired he'd been under real pressure, and that was a bit of a mad one because obviously
Klopp made this decision 4 or 5 months ago, didn't he?
November apparently. But it's been
not that okay.
I think sometimes
2 or 3 months then.
It's been on. I think he's hinted at it a few times that he was thinking about leaving, and they'd managed to keep him for another couple of years.
Yeah, I just got the impression it became.
It was when
he knows the right time to go is probably during the close season, and then he's thought, let's start the season, see how it goes. I mean, from his view,
from the view,
what he was. And then he gets to November.
And especially him, because he is all-encompassing, and he's emotional, and he puts everything...
Why announce it, then?
I don't know. It's a mad one, because it can destabilise the team that flying high at the top of the league.
United, when Ferguson said, I'm going at the end of the season... I won't say they're down tools, but...
there was a drop-off, wasn't there? So much so that he changed his mind and stayed for another year and won the league, didn't he? But anyway, that's enough about that. That is just the big news on Merseyside today, obviously, but we're only concerned...
It's big news full stop, isn't it?
Well, it is, yeah, obviously.
It's all over the 5 Live when I was driving in here.
So, there you go. Let's move on. For us, it's been a relatively... quiet week for a change, John. Again, the week ain't over yet. There's still 2.5 hours for little Dickie Masters to do something, I guess. To try and feed the werewolf with another story or something like that.
Yeah, Matt's very quiet, isn't he?
Yeah. Matt, was that it?
I hope he's all right.
I was just saying anyone. I wasn't, you know.
Who the wolf is.
Well, but I mean, what? Are you a bit surprised? You're going to say no, but are you a bit surprised that we've still heard nothing regarding a possible takeover?
Well,
being either yayed or nayed.
I think, and it's a very serious observation. I think it's probably got to the point now where journalists of quality probably can't believe anything the Premier League say.
Yeah, it seems like that.
Because they are briefing, and that. I think we've talked about it on BWB where I talk about flocking behaviour, and I think the flock this week of Premier League briefing is all about getting ready for Everton's appeal, isn't it? And, Everton, you fail because you bought too many players type of thing.
Even though the facts are now out there that is incorrect.
That's the problem with making things up as you go along. There's always some inconvenience so-and-so produces a fact, which actually is their own version of spin. Just looking at things from a different perspective. But
if you're breaking it, and I know...
But just to balance people, they go, oh, that's not the narrative.
That's it.
That's been getting pushed over there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, for things like buying players, transfer deals, who's on whose books and all those sorts of things, it's not under the covers, is it? We can see it. The shirts there with a player's name on the back. We know who he's playing.
It hasn't really it hasn't come out that though, has it? In such, it was come out. I think Chris Beasley put it down into print.
Well, he
this
captured
week,
it. He did a damn good article,
and it was very good. And he came out with the facts. I'd done them on the news the other day. Is that this has been like missed because now if people would have just gone, well, Everton have breached PSR because of this, everything altogether is that, but it wasn't the narrative that's been put out is
by the Premier League.
By the Premier League, Everton breached PSR because they kept buying players, they kept overspending, and yet, as Chris Beasley done the other day, Everton third bottom in net spend, which is essentially player trading, which is what they're saying was the charge, for want of a better phrase. Yeah, for want of a better phrase. Third bottom net spend. Only Luton and Brighton have spent have done better than Everton in that.
One of those, Luton per se, is because they don't spend a huge amount on players.
Exactly.
The other one, Brighton, is because they've had some wonderful windfalls.
Therefore, everyone else is worse than Everton. If that's
So everybody else, has been spending more than Everton.
So third from bottom in that. Everton have had a positive player trading return.
Must be 5 years more, is it?
For five since the 1920 season, every season on season. So
we
again,
all know that because we're
Everton
fans,
and the last 3 years, Everton are clear.
Yeah,
Everton's thing is ridiculous how much it's gone down, the spending levels. So I don't think this narrative's been out there enough. Is that, and I'll have the figures clearly for when we do BWB, which is obviously an exclusive on Premier, but we'll be doing it later.
Oh, okay.
But those figures we will reiterate on that, and we'll do them clearly. But that narrative of it's just because I'm not having a go with Forest because Forest have done it a different way, and that you have to try to do something in this league where the top teams are protected so much and get so much investment and on TV and create this big income. But Forest's situation to Everton is a little bit different because they have just spent on 43 players they've had over 2 seasons.
Don't need 43
Everton,
players.
no. But Everton haven't done it that way. No. But yet, you would have thought with the 2 stories, because Forest have gone, all right, go fair cop. They've been lauded. And yet, the story about Everton is that they have done what Nottingham Forest have done. And that's why they're where they are. Well, but the facts are very, very different.
Facts,
as in player trading. I mean, John.
I understand. Facts is something that the KC, who sits in judgment, will take account of, not propaganda and spin. Right now, the propaganda and spin, of course, by the Premier League, has been targeting, legacy journalists, some of whom believe. I think we had this chat earlier in the week,
probably,
right? Which is fundamentally, but if you ring one up. Say, hey, Fred, why are you pushing this narrative that Everton have breached all these rules because they spent too much money on players and bad ones at that, blah, blah, blah. And they tell you. Right? They don't say it because the Premier League told me, but they give the narrative back. And if you, and you're particularly good at this, having schooled Scholes and loads of other people in the past on the overlap. And I've done it. And I think Ped's done it as well. But if you say, well, what about this? What about that? What about the simple facts like, I didn't know that, they say. So they then don't totally believe the narrative they've been pushed. But they've also already stuck it all over their socials. They've already put it into articles. And you then say, so, well, why the Premier League, whoever that is, if this has been done under the direction of the chief executive officer, then he should be held to task by the board because that's not what he's there for. If it's not being done under his guidance, then he should be taken to task anyway because he's not got control of the spin
of what's going on,
and the marketeers and whatever. But clearly, Everton have made it very, very clear from the beginning that they feel, rightly so, that they've had their feet put to the coals. For trying to build a stadium and not funding it the traditional way by borrowing loads of money. They've effectively funded it through their own P&L, right? With the guidance and the support of as they describe him, a very wealthy man. Sort of thing. But if you do the very simplistic thing, we will go into the BWB perhaps more detail. Take the build of the stadium away, and we don't breach any of these rules. Right? Take away any player we've bought in the last 3 years. And we probably don't breach any of these rules. So unless the Premier League really, really think that given those 2 scenarios and the stadium's half completed, you've got to keep going, you shouldn't have bought any players. But we sold players. well, sell the players, just don't buy any. Well, what do they really think that a Premier League football club, simply because of their rules, which clearly are not fit for purpose because they're changing them, there's the evidence, should play, 11 academy players because that way you comply with PSR, And it's sad that Wolves, who were on the naughty step as well, and surprisingly, in quotes, didn't get done, right? Surprisingly only because everyone thought they would.
Yeah.
So maybe they just got just inside the line, so to speak. But maybe part of the price they had to pay was to go public on how they moved heaven and earth to stay within the rules and stuff like that.
Seems that way.
But that's not what they were thinking when they were getting shafted by VAR, right? So it goes back to the beginning that the Premier League can't be trusted.
Yeah.
The narrative they push needs to be qualified by journalists in receipt of it. And we've got very personal experiences, in our football club of journalists ending up getting battered and beaten because they took at face value what a football club said because they couldn't possibly perceive that they would get told lies to. Yeah. And the people who caused that maelstrom have gone, so to speak.
Yeah.
You get a manager like Frank Lampard on the overlap talking about it. It's crazy, right? So Premier League's trust gone. Narratives all being about we don't want to be seen to be wrong. And you'd really put at risk, well, the future or the existence of a founder member of the Football League, a founder member of the Premier League. We were the treacherous five back in those days.
We were.
Simply because you've decided you must be right. You must be right even when you're wrong.
Yeah.
Anybody who tries to set aside tribalism and whatever and looks at this honestly, write your own piece of paper, right? And just go, if they weren't building the stadium at all and paying for it, would they breach the rules? No. Absolutely. Therefore, what's the reason they breached the rules? Well, the stadium. Stadium's supposed to be excluded from the rules. Therefore, they haven't breached the rules.
Yeah.
And it's that last bit, which is a logical conclusion,
well, you would think so,
which the Premier League can't possibly countenance at this time. We have to, for their own political needs, be found guilty. Then it becomes, if you believe as a fan, as you've just said, if you believe as a fan or you believe as a football club, the might that they may or may not bring to bear means that the chances of us being found not guilty are very, very slim, right? Because, the deck's weighted or the wheels weighted or whatever it might be. Therefore, our approach is more about mitigation of reducing the punishment. Yeah.
Than getting off.
Than getting off, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing, of course, is that when the debate started in the first case, where we had them saying they'd be in the Premier League, saying that Everton had breached the rules by a lot.
Yeah.
Everton saying initially nothing and then a small breach, was it 8-9 million quid?
9 million, yeah.
And then Masters comes up with, well, it's 6 points for any breach at all, right?
Which wasn't agreed at the time,
Which wasn't agreed. And as we know from the great interview that Ped did with Andy Burnham, they've answered the questions, but he's chosen not to publish all the answers. But it's crystal clear to Andy Burnham, a respected politician forever, being a government minister, saying these guys don't know what they're doing. They really don't. And it's football they're putting under threat. I think Andy said something, didn't he? Like, it's not just about one football club or, or whatever. And
it's not just Everton's fight, though, is it?
That's right. Well, it is Everton's fight, but it shouldn't be.
Yeah, but it's not just Everton's fight, though. That's the thing.
And they're changing the rules, and us and Forest will be the last clubs to get done by them and all those sorts of things. But it's just mad if you just do that very simple logic. If this didn't happen, stadium build, would they breach the rules? Yes or no? No. Therefore, set them aside because they're not supposed to be counted. They haven't breached the rules at all.
Can I ask you
something? To me, that's 0 points deducted. That's the second case has no foundation.
But can I ask you,
John?
But
if that happened, that'd be Armageddon. That's like, you know what? That's. Sorry, I'll shut up in a second.
Yeah.
You know what? The analogy there is VAR, right?
Yeah.
What I've just described, where there's no points at all, that's like a player getting sent off because VAR convinced the on-field referee to send him off. And a couple of days later, impartial people go, that's not a sending off.
Now that
The poor referee ends up with a stain against his name because he got it wrong, and the judgment says the referee got it wrong, right? And the little man in the dark room in Stockley Park, ho hum, sorry, got that one wrong. And that's what this is like. They don't want to admit they got it wrong.
Okay, but let me just jump in there.
Yeah, please.
In your opinion, then, should the stadium be seen as a separate thing for any club? So I might be talking out of nonsense here, but the way I look at it, if you're building a ground and you take that on yourself, then we know that it's been said if Everton would have just took a loan for it, it would have been different. I don't know how, but it would have been seen as different. I'm not sure how that works because I'm not in that up on all the finance kind of it. But to me, that you're building something physical that's going there for the benefit of the community. Obviously, the benefit of the football club, of course it is. Of course it is.
The societal value of the stadium is massive.
That, if you want to talk about regeneration, if you want to talk about employment and all of this stuff, community, which is what football is. People forget that. Football was set up for the community all those years ago. It was something, when you've worked all week, you went to match on a Saturday afternoon to recreation. And it was the heart of the community everywhere it is. And Merseyside is still, for me, by far the most passionate football city in this country. By far. Yeah, other ones are passionate, of course they are. But Merseyside's got such a rich history of it, and it's through
proximity
all of us.
To stadium,
all of it, all of that stuff. Different cities might argue, but for me, I think it's, I do think Manchester's there, of course, but I think Merseyside. But a physical structure that you're building, to me, should be seen as a separate entity. If you're a football club going, this is our finances and this is what we're doing, all of that to me is all based on your player trading, that kind of thing, commercial and all that. Yeah, of course, you have to pay for the stadium somehow. I just don't see how that can be used against you. I know it is, because that's what they've said. It is getting used against us. But me personally, it's like Forest. If Forest had been done because they're building the new city ground, I wouldn't go, well, they've cheated because, they're building a ground as well and it's going to benefit them, because it's them building the ground. It's fine. Spurs built their ground. I don't know how they paid for that. I don't know how it was done. But West Ham got a ground given to them.
Yeah.
Man City got a ground given to them. So when you look at it that way, I just find it mind-blowing that when you're building a stadium, everyone knows the Premier League, I don't think, is stupid. But
the KC's representing them or not. Yeah.
Right, but they act like they're stupid. You've got a football club building something there that's going to benefit the product, isn't it? I mean, the 1878 had a great thing the other night, didn't he? It's build it and we'll punish you for it, but we'll use it though in 2028. We'll be made up with this shiny new Euro stadium. But that, to me, shouldn't be reflected in what you're doing, because it's away from you're just building a stadium, you're making it better. Everything else should be looked at different. I think, personally anyway, it should be looked at differently, because...
A kiss.
The which, sorry?
I'll give you a kiss.
No, but what do you think? Do you think I'm talking a bit of nonsense there, or what? What do you think?
I'll give you a kiss.
Oh, okay.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Oh, okay. John, just for a sec there, I thought.
Ooh, you're in.
Do we do it on the camera, or do we wait?
But keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah.
Because everything you just said...
You're not the only person to call me stupid, John.
Everything you just said is spot on, isn't it? And is reflected in, let's just put it this way, in the intention of the Premier League rules, which is stadiums don't count, the women's team doesn't count, academies don't count, and so on.
Yeah.
Right? But once you start deciding you're going to do someone, yeah?
Yeah.
Don't forget, this all appears to have kicked off when in the back end of 2022, various things were going on around where costs should and shouldn't be in the PSR and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not talking about physically, we have paid a builder to build our house, yeah? We borrowed some money, potentially, right? We borrowed some money to build the house. So the building of the house doesn't count, but this money we borrowed, the money itself's building the house, but the interest isn't building the house, is it? And so you get into where should the interest be, and that sort of stuff. And Everton claim, and no one's disputed this, by the way, and emails have been seen, and the KC who did the judgment last time, seen them all, that the Premier League agreed that those costs should be against the stadium, therefore they wouldn't count. Yeah? And then they changed their mind the following February, whenever it was, for whatever reason, right? But sweep all that away, because that's accountants, forensic accountants, lawyers, debating where a decimal place should be, debating, arguing about whether that should be a comma, a semicolon, or a full stop, all that sort of stuff, and do a dead simple thing: stadium. If it wasn't being built, would they fail this?
Yeah.
Well, they wouldn't have had that loan, because the owner's money would have gone here instead of there, and so on and so forth, right? But so to me, that's just keep it simple, stupid, and if people just try and hang their hat on that and try and get into a room whenever they're in the room next week, the week after, whenever it is, and say, let's get back to what the intention was here. Yeah. Forget what Everton did or didn't do on the form. Under the cover, when you look at it, honestly, without a desire to do someone or to get them off, what would a reasonable person assume the intention was? And often that's what happens in a court of law, around commercial law. What was the intention of that contract? What was the intention of that law? What was the intention of that rule? And the intention of the rule is, if you're building a stadium, the cost of it doesn't, punish you as far as PSR is concerned. And it's crystal clear that it is right now. Your question was, and though you didn't say it this way, was could we as a football club have made it more obvious which money was going on the stadium and which money wasn't? Probably yes. Yeah. Now that might have bumped up against the ego of the owner, because again, going back to that simplistic thing, simplistically, the owner was paying for the stadium and monies were being borrowed to keep the lights on day to day, maybe even to buy players, who knows, right? The club said that behind the scenes, in reality, all that money goes into the same pot. Yeah. Some of the money goes that way to build a stadium. Some of the money goes that way to pay salaries, players' wages, maybe even buy players, whatever, right? And the Premier League argue that at least some of the money you borrowed went that way. Yeah. Right? Therefore, the interest that you're paying, which is a lot, is against PSR. And Everton go, no, right? The interest should be on that money and not count inside, the PSR. And therefore, you end up with lawyers and accountants arguing about where it should and where it shouldn't be. That's why you get Paul Quinn, for example.
The Esk.
Saying things, because again, one thing you'll say about Paul, which doesn't apply to many, is he does read the rules. He does real accounting practices. He does look at the numbers. He does fill in the gaps where they're not publicly available yet. He does, and maybe he gets that bit wrong, all right, but it'd be in the ballpark. And his conclusion is, obviously, we won't breach in this year, which we're now getting told
that we have.
No. The next published.
Oh, for next.
No way you get journalists just on a roll, and they're going to get done again next year, and so forth. All that sort of stuff, right? So the reality is the debate and the argument that's going to take place in this commission thing, right? The appeal is going to be projected by lawyers with expert witnesses, accountants, and whoever tells the best story, one hopes, if it's a fair judgment, will win the day. And if they win the day and Everton get their way, they may very well demonstrate, beyond reasonable doubt, that we didn't breach the rules at all. And if we didn't breach the rules in the initial case, we haven't breached them in the second one. No. Hence why, when I was on the David Seaman thing, I said we could end up with no points, or we could end up with 20 odd. But what's the intention here of these rules in the first place? To make clubs sustainable and to avoid them going out of business. And the only existential threat to Everton Football Club right now, notwithstanding change of ownership, is all in the hands of the Premier League. Yeah. It's all in their hands, and therefore it'll be on their watch, and so on. And I just struggle with it all, because it's gone past enforcing the rules, and it's about politics. It's about, we don't want an independent regulator.
Of course,
looks like we can't stop that. Therefore, let's try and weaken it. right? That's a bit like Everton saying, we don't want a points deduction at all, but
we'll take 6 or 4.
If we can't, guarantee ourselves we'll get it to 0, let's make it as small as possible. And that, it's crazy, totally crazy. And as for, Richard Masters, I know when City are getting done, but I'm not telling you. Chelsea's ongoing, 777 isn't going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
It's all your fault. All 3 of them
That is fault,
are in the Premier League's inbox. And lest people forget, City have been done countless times by UEFA. Obviously went to CAS and got things reduced, but they still paid fines and all those sorts of things. Whilst the Premier League still can't get its case together. Chelsea have paid UEFA fines, but the Premier League can't get its case together. 777 claim they've answered all the questions, but the Premier League can't get its case together. Meanwhile, it's easier, isn't it? Let's have a commission and do a bit of deflection around, oh, look, it's another 10 points or whatever. It's
mad.
Mate, Premier League's, it doesn't know, because it can't read the room, how close it is to lots and lots of fans of all clubs going, do I really need this?
It is crazy. Ped, just quickly.
Crazy.
But in terms of the stadium, how do you look at it do you think that should be seen as a totally separate entity? Because like John's just said, if you just ask yourself that very simple question, without Everton building that stadium, would they have failed PSR? Well, all the facts are out there that Everton have actually got a positive PSR, therefore they wouldn't have. So for Everton and other clubs who might want to build a stadium, do you think that should be looked at differently?
It's funny because I always thought it was a separate thing. I always thought it was a separate company. And it's building its infrastructure. Surely we encourage that, don't we? Now, what was being highlighted, I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, is that certain people in the media might be trying to cause trouble with the loan and say, well, Everton didn't specify what the loan was for. Therefore, that's why they've been punished. Now, that might be a point we need to get to the bottom of. We need to know if that's actual fact and whether that is something that does make it a very grey area. And is it a grey area enough for one person to say, no, that's fine, that was going on the stadium, of course it was, or is another person on another day going to go, no, that loan was unspecified, so therefore we can't say what it was, so in any kind of situation, how can we give you the benefit of the doubt? Now, that might be a case of 2 different people on 2 different days have 2 different answers. I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know this, and that's maybe... But that's what the Premier League seems to be briefing certain journalists. That's what I've seen in the last couple of weeks, is that where Everton claim it was a stadium issue, people are saying, no, it wasn't a loan for the stadium because it didn't say loan for the stadium.
Well, here's the thing for you, right?
Crazy, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing for you. When you say journalists, right, let's just say sports journalists.
Yeah.
Sports journalists being briefed by the Premier League about something which is how the Premier League would like it to be understood.
Yeah.
Okay? And actually, sorry, my granddaughter uses that phrase.
Go on.
Everything's actually with her at the moment.
Good.
Actually, if you read the 41-page judgment by the KC, the answer to part of what you just said is in it, which is fundamentally the loan from Right to Media Funding initially was just a loan, so to speak, right? But Everton produced evidence that money could be used against the stadium. Now, if you're getting into semantics of if you borrowed money and it doesn't say exactly in the narrative that it's only for the stadium or it could be for the stadium or it's got the word stadium in it, we're going to assume it's not. To me, that's in the space of you're looking for an excuse to disallow the goal when you're VAR, not actually saying that's a good goal. Yeah, they need to back off, get out of the attack-defence spiral, suck it up that they've already made a mess of stuff, right? Perhaps in a boardroom say, what happens if Everton get done? How are the other shareholders going to think? Some will think great, some will think, hang on a minute, that's not right. Some won't care because they've got T in front of their name and there's 6 of them, whatever, yeah? But the reality is, if you don't build a stadium, all this is mute. All this is mute. And you are right, Ped, that they have been briefing. They borrowed money, and they're trying to claim it was for the stadium. We've seen the loan, details, and it doesn't say it's for the stadium. It doesn't say it's not for the stadium, but it doesn't say it is for the stadium. That's looking for a reason.
Yeah.
for you to fail.
No, it is, yeah.
Like VAR, looking for a reason to disallow a goal, right? Rather than, to millimetres or whatever.
Yeah.
So the analogies are quite similar in that respect.
This is where I think, and I said this to Andy Burnham, this is where I think Everton needs a spokesman. Now,
They do.
people at Everton
Chief Engagement Officer.
may not agree with me on that, but I believe they do. And I know they'll go into saying, but there's legal things and all that. But if Everton are trying to get their side of the story out, they're not doing a particularly very good job, I don't think. I really don't. Because we don't know the answers to these things, and we should know the answers to these things. If it's murky, then if Everton are not telling us, then maybe there is something to this. But they've got to get better at getting their side of the story out. Gary Neville's podcast, Jimmy Carragher was saying this. Everton have got to get better, and that doesn't mean that someone at the club needs to come and speak out. That means that people who are in and around the club need to be better briefed and need to know the answers to the questions that they're going to face. I've listened to Julia she was on Radio 5 a couple of weeks ago when this all broke, and she was brilliant. But it's still that thing of she obviously doesn't know the answer to every question.
Of course not.
Because why should she? Why should she know that? She's there, she's representing Everton, but she's not going to know the answer. We need somebody who knows all the answers to these questions, and that can only come from internally having someone who mightn't work for the club exclusively, but that to me is...
Sorry, it has to be someone who's...
No, I know, but they'll say that maybe from a legal...
I was going to say, can legally they say
Legally,
anything,
they might say that they can't have somebody. I don't know, John, I don't know.
Well, I can assure
I'm
you
just
there's no
asking.
legal impediment to you representing yourself.
Well, I didn't think there was.
None whatsoever.
I didn't think there was, John. I didn't think there was standing up for yourself. But to me, I think Everton needs someone out there every single day batting off some of these suggestions, and they're not. And I've said this to people at the club. Stories can just come every single day, and they get on top of you. There was the Philip O'Clair clip the other day. It was put out there, and it was saying Everton fans are mourning something like they've already lost it, and it was expressed to me like that was nonsense, and I was like, it's not nonsense, because I know that's how certain people feel. Not saying that's on Sundays I feel like that, and if anyone watched this video on Tuesday, they'll have seen that's how I felt on Tuesday. Now another day I mightn't feel like that. But a lot of fans are feeling like that because it's a pile-on, and when enough gets piled on top of you, you feel like there's no way out. And if people keep on putting that stuff on top, we're getting another 6 points, or we're getting a transfer ban, it might all be nonsense, but that's not how the media works now. The media suffocates you to the point where you don't feel like there's a way out. And if Everton can sit back and go, it doesn't matter, none of that matters, it really does matter, because it gets on. And do you know what? Knowing people are talking about atmospheres in the ground and feeling flat, and the Crystal Palace game fell flat and the Villa game feel flat, that's what happens.
Part of it, yeah.
That's what happens. You go into the
Absolutely.
stadium and people go on the match tomorrow, and we spoke about this earlier in the week. It's like the people at the match tomorrow, don't get me wrong, they'll be loving it. Might be the only experience they get to go to Goodison. They don't get to go to Goodison very often because the tickets have gone on general sale, so they get to go and they'll love it. But the people who go week in and week out won't feel any difference, and a lot of them will just be like, it's another game, can't really be bothered with this. They might get there, they might see what the team is and be like, someone at the club has to be there, and they mightn't like it, but this is modern media every day. Every day. Sky do it every day now, 10 o'clock, they have a media roundup. It stops churning. For Everton to just say something once every couple of weeks about the situation isn't enough.
It's total and utter madness, right? And the madness is so deep. If you look at a numpty like me who talks on podcasts and stuff in the past, right? Me, Paul and Roger haven't done, apart from a one-off special, whenever that was, in the last couple of years, we haven't done EBM for years, right? Everton Business Masters for years.
Yeah.
We did 60 or 70 episodes. What is it, every week or two? What is it? So you're talking about years of doing them. And one of the early episodes we talked about, I think it was me who said it, we need a chief engagement officer to do all the things you just said. So we're saying that to numpty 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it was years ago, coming up with a very simple thing. Now, here's the thing, Ped, which is important, I think, based on what you just said. When you ring up the journalist, whichever one it is, you think, mate, you're reading the room wrong, let me explain it to you. And you come off the phone and think, they get it now.
Yeah.
And he does it and I do it. I'm sure there's guys at the club do it as well. We know who they are. There's good guys in there. But if you go in the club and say, right, okay, so who's the spokesperson? Who's the go-to person who every media person, everybody everywhere goes, if I'm hearing this story from somebody, from the Premier League perhaps, who do I go to at Everton and ask them?
Fact check it, yeah.
Right? I would say forget the job title, that's the Chief Engagement Officer, right? So at Everton right now, I don't know who that is, right? It's Richard Kenyon's patch, so let's just say it's Richard, right? But to answer all those things, which is what you've just said, Ped, he has to know the answers. Not he's been told an answer. He has to be totally immersed in everything that's going on, knows the truth, and let's be blunt, knows the truth and knows how to spin it. Because some things he won't want to tell the truth.
Yeah.
If you speak to experts on this, and Alan Myers, for example, right, I'm sure he would totally agree with what I've just said. That the only way it works is if your public relations person, your media person, or whatever it is, actually knows the truth. And you go back to Headlockgate and all that sort of stuff. No one knew the truth. Therefore, it ran away with itself, you know? And we've said it before, whoever the next owners are, the first thing they need to do is to appoint someone I call the Chief Engagement Officer, you call, the single voice of truth, if you like. Yeah. Doesn't matter what the job title is, but you have to have that person. Yeah. It's not optional.
We have a fan base that is completely engrossed.
We are the biggest engagement bloody club in the country.
Have a fan base that's completely engrossed in most situations. Yeah. We could do a live. I think we could do a live in the middle of the night and we could pick up a few thousand people watching us without any
North America for you.
Without any issue. I think we'd have people in the UK watching
us. Let's do one then. Can we do that?
I think we could do that easily, right?
Let's do it, yeah.
And I think people would watch, and people would ask the questions: "What's going on, lads? What have you heard about this? What's happening with the 10 points? What's going on with the next one? Who do you think's going to play tomorrow?" We have a fan base that's completely engaged in Everton and nothing else in terms of what's going on in their life, And you have to. This is where Everton have lost the plot in the years. Is that it's a fan base that is there. It wants coverage, and it has got better recently. And we've noticed that at the football club, the stuff coming out of the football club is getting better.
Some of the social stuff is getting better, yeah.
But it needs to be told every day, and the club mightn't like that, and the club might say we don't react to this. You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to start reacting to the situation. You're gonna have to at least every single day start briefing people like us and people in local media just to get those stories out every single day. There's a story there by so-and-so. If one person believes something Mathew says, Everton should be reacting to it straight away and basically briefing people and going, that's not happening, and getting ahead. It shouldn't be for
being proactive.
It shouldn't be people to message them and go, what's this all about? It should be for Everton to put a story out straight away to people and say, seen this nonsense, this. Oh, yesterday. So there's yesterday's story about the electricians at Bramley-Moore Dock, right? Very quickly through social media, it couldn't go from being a story about the electricians working to rule, not doing overtime, they feel underappreciated by whoever's paying them, which is in Everton, and suddenly through social media, you give that a couple of hours and it's electricians have walked out to Bramley-Moore Dock because Everton aren't paying them enough. And that's how quickly social media works.
Of course it is.
And what you've got to do is get ahead of that and go, instead of us going, God, we're being asked about this question, it should be the club going, lads, have you heard this? It's nonsense. This is the full story. And that's how you get on top. And so we can come and go, it's nothing, lads, honestly. Would we sit here and go, want to get to the bottom of this? We wouldn't sit here and
we're fans as well, yeah.
Yeah, we want to know what's going on. Yeah. But we know there's certain people who've got that information, and it's dead easy to disprove a nonsense story,
a viral story,
very quickly. But I tell you what, sometimes when the genie gets out the bottle, you can lose it, and before you know it, it's all.
Richard Masters,
and once it's in once it's got in those bloody Facebook groups, you've lost control of the narrative, and people don't want to hear you because they go, this is a story just because you're reacting to this, and you're just trying to put a lid on this instead of going.
No, you're right.
Instead of going, saying the electricians...
You catch it early.
The electricians have walked off, and this is why. This is why. They're working to rule. They feel unappreciated by the people that are paying them. And you get on top of the story. I don't think there's enough of that at Everton.
No, never has.
And we have a fan base that is just like...
insatiable.
Sitting there.
Insatiable.
Give me information. Yeah. It's an information
because we can't there isn't other stuff for us to get our teeth into. It's not like the team's great, so you're excited.
And you're right
with
what
that.
you just said. People might be joining this stream right now and they've just woke up in Australia and they might have missed the first half an hour of what we've talking about, or America or whatever.
We've done 15 minutes on Jurgen Klopp.
Can we do...
But that's the point, though, isn't it?
No,
That
that's
people
it.
wake up at different times. And by the time they've woken up, wherever they are, they're looking at a story and going,
What's this about?
What's this about? People
No, I
walking
think
up.
he's getting the point that when it's had 2 or 3 hours to become something much more than
Real. As
then-
it's perceived as
then
real.
in
yeah.
a different time zone, it is the story.
No, well, it is. Well, we get it and go, what's this about? We got a points deduction and we've got a transfer ban now. No, that was just said the other day, and people
Can
have
we do a
hammered it.
poll? Can we do a poll?
It's a bit late now.
Not
but
today.
Oh, yeah, about what?
That we'll do a 5 at live.
I mean, live at 5, but carry
Live at
on.
5.
We can do
It's your
5
show.
5 at live if you want.
Okay, live
yeah,
at 5.
5 of us,
right?
yeah.
And that's at 5 o'clock. And the poll is, in which time zone is it 5 o'clock when we do it?
You can, if you want, John.
Then the West Coast, the East Coast of the States, the
Don't know how many of those. I don't know how many options you can have. Those.
No. So listen, right?
Yeah.
Those can vote because, of course, maybe the Aussies want it to be at 5 o'clock their time, so it'd be 5 a.m. here, wouldn't it? If it would be 10 o'clock at night here, and we did it for the East Coast of the States, it'd be.
You're gonna say something like the one who somewhere.
Yes, that's right.
Whoever wins the vote, that's what time we're doing it.
Yeah. Let's do that.
See where you're going.
Listening, Ned?
Right. Robert Heighton says
We're going to do it anyway.
Ned's a mess.
Kill John's mic for a minute. You've recently and previously referred to an interview you did with Sky Sports, but said the interview's never broadcast on telly. Can you guys upload it to your channel? We don't have the footage. They recorded it.
They recorded it.
Andy Burnham confirmed the other day.
What made it worse about that interview is that they kept us off air for a good hour.
We were live that day. We had 5,000 people online, which is a lot, watching a live stream about something that broke. We come off air for over an hour. They recorded it all, never used it, because obviously they didn't like the message in it.
They sent the cameraman came from Sheffield because they're normal people, Vinny and stuff. We're outside the club shop getting fan reaction instantly, and they sent someone, and they sent the poor lad who had to bunker in the Wirral. Remember him? The poor lad who had to bunker in the Wirral came here. And I don't know how he felt. I mean, he was in full camouflage. But he came as well. He came from Bury.
Face paint on.
The other fella was like, I've got it. He's like, I've got to drive back to Sheffield now. It's 6 o'clock on a Friday night. He's like, I've got to get to Sheffield now. He went, imagine how they felt. They never used, and you're telling me that the biggest story, it was an international weekend as well. The biggest story that weekend was that we'd had the points deduction. Biggest story for years in the Premier League, and you couldn't have gone. And here's some reaction. Because it wasn't live, which was another telltale sign. Because they haven't been back. It is mad, and I don't want to burn any bridges with anyone, but it is mad that all the things that they've come in here for to go live, whether it's
They've all got
me and Baz, me and John, me up there, the things that have been said, the things that the good, the bad, the ugly. And yet that day they were like, oh, I don't think we can go live with this. And they haven't gone live since with us. And they haven't even, and that to me is so telling. And I'm not being conspiracy theoristy. I'm just saying about us and having people anytime go and speak to Baz. I mean, the people on Sky Sports, it's great to see Baz and Ped and all this, blah, blah, blah. And now they don't want to do anything.
They don't do it with any Everton fan, though.
No.
It's almost like they've just gone.
They've just gone, nah, we can't go live because something might be said.
Because Andy said, didn't he, on your interview, it's more of a chat between equals, wasn't it, really? But you know what I mean? I'm joking.
He's a future Prime Minister of this country.
Yeah, but didn't he say something
and
like,
Andy Burnham?
I don't know, he's not that old, is he? But 20-odd years as a politician, I've been live on the radio, on TV all the time. And he stopped himself saying it, so I'll say it for him. I'm a busy man. Yeah. They don't record me and then not publish it.
Exactly.
But they did. They recorded him and didn't publish it. Who asked that question?
Robert.
Robert, we'll ask Sky, could we have the content? Because I believe, based on what Andy said, that the reason they didn't use content was because news stories changed.
No, they didn't change.
No, but that's what
Still hasn't changed.
Burnham.
That's what they believe.
Andy Burnham is potentially the third most important person in power in this country.
You reckon?
Well, you've got the Prime Minister, you've got the Mayor of London, and then you've got the Mayor of Manchester. I'm talking in power.
Oh, I see.
In a position of actual power.
Influence.
Right?
Yeah,
You've got
yeah.
the Prime Minister, the Mayor of London comes just after the Prime Minister, and then he's more important than the Metro Mayor of Liverpool, the
What about
Mayor
Birmingham?
Who cares about Birmingham? And he's a Tory.
Number
who
2
cares?
city?
It's not the number 2. Manchester is the number 2 city now. Anyone who says it's Birmingham, not a chance. Manchester is the number 2 city
And
now.
as the Liverpool, Steve and Andy joined at the hip on this subject, that's the Northern Powerhouse, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no. He is a busy man.
Yeah, he is.
You knew that from what happened in COVID. He was never off. He was never off. Him and the other fella who's the nighttime guy, they were never off the TV. That shows you the power they've got.
Yeah.
And a lot of people do see him as the future leader of the Labour Party. Now, whether that means he'll be the Prime Minister or not, who knows? But he is a very busy man. So to give his time up to even just coming on here for an hour, you know, it is to him. It's taken away from his very important day job, and people in Manchester might be like, "Well, why is he?"
But you recorded at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night because that was the first chance you could do it. None of this Premier League 9 to 5 stuff. Yeah,
Right, there's a little bit of Martin Wone says 100% Everton need a spokesperson, not just to shut the media up, but for us, for fans, for clarity. Dex says hit the like button. Basically, call yourself Evertonians. Well, hey, might not be Evertonians, but definitely Richard Masters fans if they aren't hitting the like button. Negative news gives us a negative mindset. Probably a good reason why Goodison's flat at the moment. James says, afternoon, guys. The club has no captain. Someone to take it by the scruff of the neck. Currently, there's no one who's going to stand up and do that, as in the club, not the team.
It's true, and unfortunately, the incumbents don't feel they can make decisions. But life goes on. You've got to do the right thing in the moment, you know. But it's not happening, is it? Canada's being kicked down the road all the time, and understandably so when you think of the players on it.
Well, it's even that though. The fact of like something like the Gary Neville podcast. There's no one like. They could even go, let's get an Everton representative in here. But he could. That's right.
They could ask me.
They could ask you. But the point being is that
no, they should get someone from the club.
Like Carragher basically being. That's the problem. I think that's where a lot of Everton. Carragher's like is being like the angel and the devil so many times, and people don't like him. Obviously, Evertonians and some do because he does fight our corner. But he shouldn't be any kind of representation of Everton as a club. Everton should have someone on there who can go on there. Gary Neville should be able to think, I can pick up the phone and get like, who's just come out of the game, like a Jagielka of the world or someone like that. But those people get.
But he did.
But they wouldn't know, would they?
But that's the problem. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like Everton should be using these people who are in the media and being
or want to be.
And they should. Gary Neville should think, I can pick up the phone, get him on. He will talk brilliantly. He'll bring powerful stuff, but he'll be light stuff. There's just nobody out there carving that out for themselves, because all these people who end up in the media, there's something about them. They get out there and it's like, ones who play for us, they're all like yes men. They're all like, I'm happy to be here. Like Leon Osman's the most blandest person in the world, and you understand why he does it, because he just wants to be on telly. He wants to carve out a career.
He's got to, hasn't he? You've got to play with what you've got.
Because you're not living off what you've won or anything. You're living off the fact that you can talk about football, but then you become another Jermaine Jennings or a Danny Murphy, someone who doesn't want to offend anyone. We need someone out there who's like, I'm prepared to put myself out there and say, this is a disgrace.
Have a real opinion.
Yeah. And that way, someone will pick up the phone and go, do you want to come on our podcast? Because you speak your mind. And actually, we'd love a bit of this on that show, because you're prepared to say something.
But what's the appetite to have that?
But that's the but there is always an there's always an appetite. There's always an appetite. Look at the other fucking lunatic, the press he's getting, Barton, and he's just the lowest of the low. But people can't leave it alone because they know it's a story. Flip that on its head and get someone else who's back in the club and defending them and going, we're not standing for this. But there's no one out there doing it.
Guys.
Danny said, I just want to think you're on. Danny says, I live in Texas, and when I wake up in the morning, the daily lives are sitting here ready to watch. So you boys are my main Everton catch up first thing in the morning. Nice one. John Vance says, Sky not showing interviews is them managing the message on behalf of themselves in the Premier League.
Spot on, John.
Really, though, it's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Emma says, Sky must be fuming at transfer windows. Quiet as fuck. Hardly a great advert for the Premier League. No comings and going. That's it, Emma, isn't it? Masters has shot everybody in the foot, and including himself, massively, because it's quiet, isn't it? It's quiet because people are terrified now, and that's the issue, isn't it? That is the issue.
Samuel nailed it very early on, didn't he? That on Master's Watch. He's made it all.
It's WWE. I've been saying
it's so easy to shrug your shoulders.
Yeah, it is.
Anyone successfully find out where the FA Cup was last night if you wanted to watch it on telly?
No, I believe
what was that about?
Find it. It was on BBC, wasn't it? The iPlayer, apparently.
A Thursday night FA Cup fourth round game. You have to search to find out. Doesn't appear on your programme guide. You go on Google. You eventually find it. It was on iPlayer. I went to iPlayer, couldn't find it. Sorry, and it was Welsh language on S4C. That was it. So viewing figures must have been really low.
And yet our game against Palace wasn't even on anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Paul Hoffley says Alan Stubbs could do it.
No, he could do it, but unfortunately, no one's given him a platform to do it. BT did give him a platform; he was fantastic, but no one has given him that. I know he's on Radio Merseyside; he's been doing a good job on that, but that's very obviously. It's not going anywhere, is it? It's staying very much within the fan base.
Local, isn't it?
We need somebody who's got who can speak out. I mean, if you
the hurdle is someone that the broadcasters can trust live. That's the thing. And they do have editorial. I mean, you nailed it before. You two were on Sky Sports News frequently live, and you got to the point where they happily trusted you. There was no effing and jeffing. It was a passionate opinion, and they loved it. They appear not to want a passionate opinion on this subject.
Of course, yeah.
That's
once this
happened.
is done, I imagine they'll be back.
Reintegrated
They'll be
again.
going, oh yeah, let's do this. Right, these are our Premier members' comments before we finish. Paul Catzel, afternoon, lads.
Hi, Paul.
Mike Barrett says heads are falling off in relation to Klopp. Lynn Cook, and I think this is a great comment, and he's right. Today is Dick L's day. Can you imagine Dick L in work?
This is
the day Dick L's waiting for.
Payback.
I really thought he'd be commenting going,
he's too busy. He's like that, bottles of champagne.
Imagine it though, boys.
Mrs. wearing a skirt.
I've been in work today.
Yeah, it was glorious.
Glorious. The lads' heads had fallen off. Yeah. There was tears everywhere. And I've just got home, and the missus is wearing a skirt. See you later, boys. That's normally what picks Dick. Well, obviously, what picks Dick up.
Birmingham said
literally.
Birmingham said in the comments, Ped, when did you last visit Birmingham? They are investing billions, and it's clear to see when you visit the city centre. Everyone's investing. Also, do you know the name of the mayor of Birmingham?
They might be from Birmingham.
Do you know the name?
I don't know.
Do you know the name? No, exactly. No one knows it. No one knows it.
But Birmingham people will know it.
But that's the point. No one else knows it. Well, everybody knows who Andy Birmingham
Let's not have a mayor off. All right.
No,
let's just.
Birmingham is not the second city anymore.
Okay. Richard Parr says, afternoon, lads, makes a nice change for news stories not to be about us. Have you watched the overlap with Lampard? Thought there were a few interesting comments, especially those around leadership and structure of the club. Yeah, I'm halfway through it. It's good, and it is.
I'll listen to it on me run.
Do it. Daniel says, I'm surprised we haven't had any points deduction for Klopp leaving. Yeah. Kev Rex is, Klopp is going, oh my God, this is the beginning of the end of the RS.
Don't ever say that.
No, he does say.
Don't ever say. He might even go.
No.
He might do a DiCaprio.
He does say, I wish, he's having tongue-in-cheek, having a laugh. Paul Gold thinks little Dicky will give them something to cheer about, the Reds. Benjamin says the Premier League must have found a plumber for all those leaks because they're very quiet with regards to City's hearing date. Absolutely. Jake says, are we going to give Jurgen his first derby defeat? Hasn't lost the derby, has he?
Dingo makes a good point.
Which is incredible.
I'm saying Dingo.
Well, lose his last one.
Yeah, but losing it live, like we with fans, we beat them 2-0 in COVID, didn't we? But
that man, where is it? That man Dan says the American sports talk shows are total opposite to ours. They want to say things that are controversial for clicks. I know there was one last week, and it nearly got bloody the whole channel sued. It was Pat McPhee, who's a ex-American footballer. He does some stuff with the wrestling as well and a bit with UFC. He's very shows are very big, massive. And they had there's an American footballer on who, what's his name? He doesn't believe in the vaccine, and he basically said on air,
live, presumably.
Live, basically said something about Jimmy Fallon, who's, was it Jimmy Fallon or the other one? He basically said something which was so libelous live. And Pat McPhee was like, "Oh, I can never have you on this show again. That's a disgrace what you've just said, blah, blah, blah." The guy who said it about was one of the late night talk show hosts, was like, "I'm going to sue you, blah, blah, blah." And they were like, "We'll never have you on." They had him on the week after. The following week, they had him back on. They love it.
They love it.
Now, to nail your question, it's Andy Street.
Yeah, exactly. No one knows who he
But
is.
he's not the elected mayor of Birmingham. He's the elected mayor of the West Midlands.
Oh, okay.
So I'm saying that Birmingham isn't big enough.
Right, Jez says, afternoon loves, what worries me most about our predicament is I'm not convinced the Premier League have any humility to accept they were wrong and will double down irrespective of the appeal. I mean, given the maverick, duplicitous and basically bullying approach so far, that one, yeah.
Yeah, you can say
I've gone, yeah, I know. I was just reading, I've gone full Ned there, but I don't care. We can assume that he's better.
Have you ever jet washed a horse?
I'm just going through. Not yet. Steve says, I wish John could have a word with RKC, specifically about the KISS principle regarding the
I'm sure
stadium
he's
build.
on it.
Mark says, bring in Alan Myers ASAP. Here. Bainey says, getting sick of what this is doing to our club. We can't move forward with new ownership. We're stuck and going backwards. A system in place to protect clubs is stacked against us and could potentially do the opposite. We're on the wrong of so many poor VAR refereeing decisions, which may have caused the recent injury to McNeil. We've been referred to as a smaller club. The press haven't been a help, not by speaking from both sides. They even block Andy Burnham, politicians who's highly regarded. It is what it is. Stan totally agrees with the lack of communication from the football club. Great, John. We do need a spin doctor. And Patrick Ridge
Pat
says,
hello, Patrick.
Swiss Ramble piece from time of the deduction suggests Everton's loan application to the Metro Bank specifically stipulates, and I'm paraphrasing, these funds will not be allocated towards the stadium build. But points 80 to 82 in the judgment are what Ped and John have referred to. They judge, while recognising Everton's arguments, they could not prove on the balance of probabilities that the costs from the loans wouldn't have been taken out, even if the stadium wasn't being built. So didn't Everton provide that evidence? Or if they did, the commission chose to ignore it.
I've spoken to Everton and they said they did.
No.
And it wasn't, I don't think it was Metro. I think it was RMF. So again, you've got a mixture of stories there, haven't you?
Must try harder.
But it was that, again, beyond reasonable doubt that this money was for that. That shouldn't be what it's about.
No.
Not at all.
You're going into some...
You get into levels of detail about you borrowed money, it all goes into your bank, you start spending it. We want to know exactly, where it goes. That's not how businesses operate. Really.
Birmingham government declared bankrupt a couple of months ago.
There you go. There you go, lads. There you go.
That's just from...
No, it is. It has
no
been.
further questions.
No, they have.
Right,
Yeah.
Listen, thank you very much. Martin... So I seen the crying faces. I just seen Andy Hinchcliffe as a spokesman. Then I seen the crying faces. You spot on.
You were worried there, weren't you?
God, as if.
God, he's boring. Man.
Garrett says, "Hey, Ped, I've only just found out Birmingham has an airport." Hey, come on, they have had.
Flight to Coventry, though.
They have had an airport. Hey, they've been going everywhere for years. Right, we're going. Hit the like button, subscribe.
Cheers,
There's a link. Is there a link here?
Only unless Ned's done it.
There's a link. We're going to be on More Than a Game in 7 minutes. So get over there, most of you. Get over. Let's carry on.
3 in UK time.
3. Come on. Get it sorted. Stay. Click the like button. Subscribe. I want to see more than that. Get over. Subscribe to More Than a Game as well. We'll see you in 7 minutes with your drink. Take it easy. Bye.